Greetings, traveller. Come in and take a seat by the fire. Today we will be continuing our tale together. A tale of hard decisions and harsh consequence, leading us to the inevitable question: the true price of a life. The Closing Net, Part 3. The street is dark, save thin strips of candlelight that squirm out beneath closed shutters. Little Spire is a small town, and largely insignificant, with the exception of its poignant place in distant history, where it once served as a key sanctuary during darker days. Now it has grown only little, but its reputation has shrunk far beyond proportion. While the land around the village is still patchworked with hardy crop fields, few remain to till them. The only tavern of note lies vacant and cold near the centre of the village, its daily footfall drying up almost as soon as darkness falls. From the deeper shadows behind this near-empty building, two splinters of darkness slip out into the silent central thoroughfare and drift down the road, unhurried, but still hugging the eaves. The two apparitions know their destination, but their eyes continue to dance across the silent street around them, watchful but unafraid. Before long, despite their languid pace, the shadows draw to a halt before a small cottage largely similar to all those spread along the street. As far as any beyond the Imperial Palace are concerned, these shadows do not exist. Hidden beneath a dozen layers of bureaucratic obfuscation and several more of a more base nature, they do not even have a formal title for their shadowy cabal, although Imperial Assassin feels relatively accurate. And here they stand, in a dying town. You reach out a gloved hand and knock on the door. What the fuck do we do now? The corridor is dark, lacking the dispersed oil lamps present in the servant passageway. It seems you will be less likely to encounter passers-by here. You frown, despite yourself. Not the time to reminisce. When no one responds to Saja, she throws her hands up in frustration. Anyone? Keep it down. Hendrik is standing ahead of you, looking down the corridor. You want us all to end up getting stuck by that weird little clown? I'd rather none of us do. Then quieten down and let us think. The two fall silent again, lost momentarily in their own thoughts. Your mind is racing, balancing various courses of action against chances of success. The pickings seem alarmingly slim. We don't know what we don't know. Luther's voice echoes your sentiment. Nobody planned on a prison break, and the dungeons are spread across the whole Undercroft. Whoa! Prison break? Bradley is frowning, face deep in shadow. The payday is right here. Payday? Luther's tone is dangerous. Were you not listening? Victor's been caught. Hell or high water, we need to get him out. And risk all of our necks. Would you do the same if it was me or Saj? No. Leastwise not yet. Then why should we do it for you? Because without Victor, there is no payday. Silence returns, but the realities are evident. This job needs to be a success, and that means accessing the vault and getting Victor out alive. If it comes to a choice, well, at least you know where Bradley stands on the subject. You gesture to Luther, first urging calm and then laying out the beginnings of a plan. He nods along as you outline what needs to happen, and it starts with finishing the task at hand. Luther echoes your final gesture for the group. Victor ain't going anywhere. Without a further word, you turn your back on the door that would take you back to the throne room. There will be time enough to deal with this new emergency, but right now you need to make this worthwhile. The vault door is in a room at the far end of the corridor, its colossal hinges embedded into the stone walls, its front enveloped in thick metal plates. To your own senses, it practically hums, barely containing the immense pressure coming from the power on the other side. But you know to everyone else in the room, it is simply a slab of steel. There are no visible keyholes or handles, but then again, you weren't expecting any. All right, Ace. Luther shoots you a smile that seems drastically less confident than his previous grins. Time to do your thing. You nod, then reach up and carefully lower your cloth mask. Sarge's gasp is audible. Bradley simply stares. Even Henrik, who has seen your lower face before, grimaces slightly and looks away. You don't blame them. The tortured skin and knotted scar tissue around your mouth is no pretty sight, even when you are familiar with it. Your lips are long gone, leaving only a permanent rictus grin of exposed tooth and tortured gum. Your tongue, similarly, fell victim to your arcane connection long ago, and what flesh does remain on your jaw, cheeks, and chin has suffered burns, frostbite, and extreme force to such an extent that it now appears desiccated and necrotized beyond any living tolerance. In short, you are a horror to behold. But such is the price of the power in your blood. The power that they need you to use now. And damn the cost. You take a deep breath, feeling raw power tugging at your throat. And then you speak. The cottage door creaks open a few inches, just enough to permit a lance of orange light to cut across the street, painting a line of brightness across your partner's face. A cautious man peers from within, eyes fearful. It is understandable, given the hour, but there is little sympathy in your compatriot's eyes as they slip their thin-bladed rapier through the gap, piercing the man's throat and stepping forwards as the door is pulled open by his dying hands. You step in after them and scan the room, registering the horrified expression of a middle-aged woman in coarse linens who sits at the rudimentary table, stew spoon half raised. You feel nothing as you launch yourself across the intervening space and clamp a hand over her mouth, pressing her head backwards. You feel nothing as you glide the razor edge of your knife across her exposed neck. You feel nothing as you gauge her dying breath, releasing her only when you are certain not enough air remains in her throat to make a sound. You feel nothing, because feeling was burned away, along with identity, memory, attachment. You've heard some recruits struggle with the process, but you welcomed it. When you live with the knowledge that your parents died hearing your first words, losing your memory and attachment is a gift. Your comrade is wiping their blade clean on the dead man's tunic, and you cast a glance over them, taking in the patchy, dark grey leather and wool, well adapted to merge with darkness. They are cowled as you are, but not for the same reason. Thaumatic power takes many forms. Of those few spared by systematic Khazian persecution of magic wielders, deemed useful to the throne, Most channel through limbs, some through foci. To your limited knowledge, you are the only one who speaks their power. At least, the only one living. Not that such tools are needed to deal with helpless civilians, of course. Blade and silence will be more than sufficient for this day's task. Your partner straightens up and gestures upwards. The objective is not yet completed. You've been told there are 3 residents here, and you have been sent explicitly for everyone in the building. Were you inclined, you might have questioned how a humble farmer's family in a dead-end hamlet threatened the throne. But your conditioning removed the urge to seek answers long ago. You are not judge, nor are you jury, simply executioner. You nod, pausing only to quietly return the latch on the door before turning to the stairs. Luther's hand on your shoulder pulls you back to the present once more, and you slowly pull your cowl back over your ruined face, wincing slightly as the cloth brushes freshly exposed muscle. The vault door remains on its hinges, though at its centre there is now a glowing hole, ringed with molten metal that has already begun to cool and solidify in air that smells faintly of ozone. Your other comrades stand, frozen in place, blinking away the afterimage. Saja stares at you with a strange mixture of horror and pity, while Bradley's expression is a more uniform terror, thinly veiled by male bravado. Good work, lad. You hate the edge of fear Luther buries in reassuring words, but you nod in response and then move forwards, stepping carefully to avoid the pooled metal still radiating an infernal heat. The room beyond has no light fixtures, but it is easy to make out the several rows of shelves, rising to the ceiling and nearly bending beneath the weight of crystals, stacked neatly and emitting a pale blue-green light that makes your teeth itch. The raw energy suffusing the room nearly pushes you backwards. Henrik steps into the room behind you, along with Luther. Both of them have witnessed your power before, and so they are quicker to shake off the initial shock. They have each pulled a tightly rolled sack from their packs, and without a word they begin shoveling the crystals into their respective bags. Saja and Bradley look on, still dumbfounded, until Henrik waves them in with a growl. Don't just stand there, get grabbing. What the hell are these things? The technical term is pyromorphic arcanolith, magical essence extracted through extreme pressure in a manner not dissimilar to the smelting of pure metals, though in this case the pressure is arcane and the ore biological. Henrik's answer is a little more succinct. Magic shit, he grunts, then tosses one to Bradley, who catches it in a fumbling panic. Less gab, more grab. Without further comment, the 2 former soldiers set about filling their own sacks. The stairs creak slightly. Not enough to be heard outside, but enough to alert anyone above to your approach. You tense, readying yourself for resistance, albeit futile. The only door upstairs is already ajar, and upon entering, you find it apparently devoid of life. A rugged bed with a straw mattress dominates the modest room. A chest of drawers is set against the opposite wall. You scan the room, trained eye taking in the sparse furnishings, and then settling on the space on the other side of that chest of drawers. From the door, that corner is completely obscured, but the slightest shift of shadow on the wall tells you all you need to know. The young woman crouched there somehow knew you were not one of the older couple below as you came up the stairs. And to her credit, as you step into view, she swings a chair leg with an admirable level of force. The blow is only halfway to your head before your free hand clamps down on her throat, stifling the beginnings of her strained battle cry. She is dead a moment later, and you leave your knife in her eye socket, freeing your other hand to catch her improvised weapon as it slips from limp fingers, preventing it from clattering to the ground. You feel nothing as you lower her to the floor, her limbs sagging under her own weight. You feel nothing as you retrieve your blade, wiping blood and cerebral fluid away and sheathing it. You feel nothing as you turn to leave. And then you hear it. You stop, dead still, partially lit by moonlight filtering weakly through poorly made shutters. 3 residents. You turn, experiencing an odd sense of hesitation as you reach out and grasp the handle of the top drawer. Everyone in the building. You pull, and the drawer slides out with a slight groan of wood on wood. And then a small, pudgy pink hand reaches up towards you. The sacks are loaded, near to bursting, but secure enough to be carried, at speed if the situation calls for it. Originally, the plan had been to empty this vault, but it's evident that you have underestimated how many arcanoliths there would be. As planned, you are not carrying a sack yourself. The proximity to these things is already disorienting enough. Loaded up as much as you can be, your small group of misfits steals out of the vault corridor and back into the great hall balcony. The Imperial Fool is no longer prancing about across the floor, having settled at the young Emperor's feet like a masked, grinning hound. Before the young ruler, a jet-haired and well-built man is knelt in obedience, his battered green velvet doublet sporting the tower and blade motif of the Elder Keep. It's true, then. Of all the damnable luck, the Iron Warden returns to the capital on the worst possible day. "Stand up, Uncle." The Emperor's words echo clearly up to you all as you make your way carefully along the empty balcony. "Did you bring me a present?" It is a short dash along the servants' corridor to reach the first room with an external wall. Fate smiles on you enough to reach that room before you encounter your first witness. The unfortunate scullery maid barely has time to react before the butt of one of Henrik's knives strikes her temple, and she slumps to the ground. "Sorry, lass," Bradley mutters as he helps Henrik bundle her behind the nearest tapestry. True to the floor plan, the next room has a small alcove in the thicker exterior wall, and mercifully, no occupants. "We're sure about this?" Saja is still carrying her sack like it is filled with fine china that might explode at the slightest motivation. Luther nods, grinning. "Oh, yes. And it'll beat hauling the bastard out the long way." Bradley and Henrik deposit their bags by the alcove and step back to take up watch by the doors. "Besides, we're going to need our hands free for the next bit, Luther steps into the alcove and pats the smooth wooden panel it contains, notably avoiding touching it too close to the neat circular hole cut into it. Below, at the foot of the wall, a steep slope leads down to the deep trench that rings the city walls. Provided you survive the next few hours, it should be a simple task to reach the dropped sacks before the morning gong farmers. "Now, Quit stressing, and throw your magic crystals down the shitter. The stairs creak once more. A moment later, your partner moves into the room, soundless. You are standing at the shuttered windows as they glance around the room, then shoot you a gestured query. Is there a problem? You shake your head, then watch as they stalk around the room, taking in the dead woman in the corner and eventually coming to a stop in front of the drawers. They are staring at the bloodied thumbprint you left in the wood, barely visible in the non-light. With a precise movement, they reach forwards and slide the drawer open just as you did. They see the tiny pink creature within, just as you did. A baby, barely a year old, as you can judge such things, nestled in tousled cloth, staring up. You see your partner's blade rise, glinting in the moonlight. The blade cuts deep, severing the spine in a single, swift movement. Your blade. As your partner slumps sideways, a look of surprise and alarm on their face, you no longer feel nothing. Pity and guilt well up inside you, but it is muted beneath an unfamiliar surge of something new. Something that manages to cut through all of your conditioning, all of your numb calculations. A profound sense that while righteousness may be subjective, some things are still indelibly and undeniably wrong. The light is still fading from their eyes as you wipe your blade clean once more, then rise to your feet to look down at the tiny infant, gazing up at you with clear eyes the colour of storms. You are not judge, nor jury, and today you cease to be an executioner. Without a sound, you reach down, scooping the baby girl from her hiding place, and turning to leave without a word. The sacks are gone, dropped through the garderobe like so much excrement to land in the ditch below with a wet slap. You look around and see resolution hardening in your compatriot's eyes. The original plan had you leave the palace the way you came in, but the plan has changed. No one left behind. It's time to find Victor. Thank you for listening to this, the third part of our tale together. If you are enjoying these tales, please consider subscribing to be informed of our next part when it is released. And do leave a comment below, as I am very keen to hear your thoughts on how our tales are beginning to build. Tell me what you thought, how you felt, and what you would like to see next. I aim to release at least a new part of our current tale every week, but should the coming weeks grow quiet, rest assured, I have no intention of stopping any time soon. We have many, many more tales to tell. Until we meet again, traveller, farewell and safe travels.